That's what my daughter Jennifer said when I asked her about my 70th birthday plans. Just like that. Not even a phone call, a text message. Cold, final, like she was declining a spam email. I was standing in my tiny kitchen making banana bread when my phone buzzed on the counter. The recipe was my late husband's favorite, and I'd been thinking maybe, just maybe, I could serve it at my birthday dinner. You know, surrounded by the people I'd spent 7 decades loving and caring for. How stupid was I? I wiped the flour off my hands with a dish towel and picked up my phone. The message from Jennifer was right there on the screen, glowing like a little knife. Mom, Rob, and I talked. We're not doing a party for your birthday? Honestly, we're not throwing away cash on that joke. Money's tight right now. You understand, I read it once. Then twice. Then a third time, waiting for the words to rearrange themselves into something that made sense. That joke? My 70th birthday was a joke? Before I could even process it, another message popped up. This time from Rob, my son-in-law. Margaret, no offense, but you're getting up there in age. A quiet day at home makes more sense than some big production. Less stress for everyone. I just stood there, phone in hand, staring at those words. The smell of banana bread baking filled the kitchen, but I couldn't smell it anymore. I couldn't feel anything except this weird, hollow emptiness spreading through my chest. 70 years. I'd made it 70 years on this earth. I didn't want some fancy ballroom event or expensive catering. I just wanted my family around one table. I wanted to look at their faces and feel like all the sacrifices, all the late nights, all the penny pinching and dream postponing had been worth something. But to my daughter, it was a joke. And to my son-in-law, I was just too old to matter. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode. Then I sat down at my small kitchen table, the one I'd bought at a garage sale 15 years ago because I couldn't afford new furniture. I stared out the window at the little herb garden on my fire escape. The afternoon sun was hitting the basil just right, making the leaves glow bright green. Everything looked so normal, so peaceful, but inside me something was cracking. Not a loud, dramatic break, not screaming or crying. Just this quiet, ice-cold understanding that I'd been living in a fantasy world. For 69 years, I'd been Margaret Wilson, mom, grandma, the reliable one. The woman you could count on when you needed help. The one who gave and gave and gave without keeping score. The one who put everyone else's happiness before her own. And now, on the edge of my 70th birthday, I finally saw the truth. All that unconditional love came with a price tag. A price my daughter apparently wasn't willing to pay anymore. I typed back a short response. Just 2 words. Okay then, I didn't beg. I didn't explain how much it hurt. I didn't ask them to reconsider. Just, okay then. I turned off the oven. The banana bread was overdone around the edges, darker than it should have been. I left it sitting on the hot pan and just sat there in my silent kitchen while my carefully built world started falling apart. Because this wasn't really about a canceled party. This was about years of being invisible, years of being valued only for what I could provide. Money, babysitting, emergency bailouts. I existed to serve, never to be celebrated, and as the sun kept shining on my basil plants, I started remembering everything I'd done for them, every sacrifice, every check I'd written, every dream of mine I'd shoved into a drawer so they could chase theirs. The memories hit me like a flood. 23 years ago, when Jennifer was 19 and desperate to go to college. My husband had just died 6 months earlier, heart attack, sudden, devastating. He left us with a mortgage, credit card debt, and exactly $3,400 in savings. But Jennifer got accepted to State University, and she wanted to study graphic design. I was working as a receptionist at a dental office, making barely enough to cover our basic bills. But when Jennifer needed tuition money, I took a second job. I started cleaning houses on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 8 hours a day, scrubbing other people's toilets and mopping other people's floors. My knees ached. My back screamed. My hands got so dry from cleaning chemicals that they'd crack and bleed. But every semester, without fail, I paid Jennifer's tuition. 4 full years, 48 months of working myself to the bone so my daughter could graduate debt-free. When she walked across that stage in her cap and gown, I cried tears of pure joy. I thought all the pain had been worth it. I thought I'd built something beautiful. Then she met Rob. They worked at the same design agency. He seemed nice enough at first, polite, well-dressed, always said the right things. But something about his smile never reached his eyes. Something calculating lurked behind that friendly exterior. They got married 3 years later. I paid for half the wedding, $8,000. Money I'd been saving for years in an old coffee can hidden in my closet. Money I was supposed to use to finally replace my dying car that broke down every other month. But Jennifer wanted a beautiful wedding, and I wanted to see her happy. 2 years after that, when they decided to buy their first house, I gave them the down payment. $12,000, my entire retirement account that I'd been building since my husband died. Every penny I'd managed to save, Rob promised they'd pay me back. Margaret, I swear, as soon as we get stable financially, we'll pay you back every cent. That was 20 years ago. I never saw a dollar of it. Then Emma was born, my granddaughter. Beautiful baby girl with these huge brown eyes and the sweetest little laugh. I took care of her every single day while Jennifer and Rob worked. From the time she was 4 months old until she started kindergarten, 5 full years. 60 months of being Emma's primary caregiver. Changing diapers, making bottles, singing lullabies at 2 in the morning when she wouldn't sleep. Potty training, first words, first steps. All of it. They never paid me. Not 1 cent. Because she was my granddaughter. Because it was my privilege as a grandmother. That's how they made me feel, like my time was worthless. Like my days and energy were infinite resources they could drain without giving anything back. Now Emma's 21, studying to be a veterinary technician at a private college. Who pays her tuition? I do. $950 a month, straight out of my Social Security check. Jennifer convinced me 4 years ago. Mom, you know how important education is. We don't want Emma drowning in student debt. You understand, right? And I understood. Like I always understood. Like I always said yes. I also pay for Jennifer's car insurance, $280 a month, because somehow that expense always falls on me. Rob makes twice what she does, but my daughter's car insurance? That's Grandma's responsibility, and then there's the credit card. The one I added Jennifer to just for emergencies about 8 years ago. She uses it for everything. Clothes, restaurants, furniture, weekend trips. Last month's statement was $947. The month before, it was over $1,000, but I pay it. Every month I pay it, because I'm terrified to say no. Terrified they'll stop calling. Terrified I'll lose the only thing I have left in this world, my family. My phone buzzed again on the table. Another message from Jennifer. Mom, you're not mad, are you? Don't be dramatic. It's just a party. We can do something simple another time. Something simple another time. Like my life could be rescheduled. Like I was an appointment that could be moved to a more convenient slot. I stared at that message and felt something new rising in my chest. Something I'd never felt toward my own daughter before. Resentment. Pure, crystal clear resentment. And with that resentment came a terrible, clarifying truth. I'd been a fool for way too long. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the water stain on my ceiling, the one that had been there for 3 years because I couldn't afford to fix the leak in the roof. Every dollar I saved somehow ended up going to Jennifer's emergencies. I got up around 2 in the morning and walked to my living room. I turned on the little lamp in the corner, the one that cast that warm yellowish glow, and sat on my worn-out couch. The same couch I'd had for 18 years, because buying a new one always seemed like an unnecessary expense. On my coffee table was an old shoebox. I opened it slowly, like I was opening something sacred. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them, a whole lifetime of love and sacrifice captured in fading colors. The first photo I picked up showed Jennifer at 7 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, wearing the purple dress I'd sewn by hand because we couldn't afford store-bought. It was her birthday. I'd made her a homemade strawberry cake and invited her school friends over for games in our tiny backyard. She'd been so happy that day. When did she stop caring about my happiness the way I cared about hers? I kept looking through the photos. Jennifer's high school graduation, she's hugging me so tight. Her wedding day, I'm helping her fix her veil. Emma's birth, I'm holding my newborn granddaughter with tears streaming down my face. In every single photo, I'm there. Always present, always smiling, always giving. But now, when I needed someone to show up for me, when I wanted to celebrate making it 70 years in this hard world, suddenly it was too much to ask. I put the photos away and walked to my desk by the window. I opened the bottom drawer, the one I almost never opened because it hurts. I'd always been organized with money. Even when I didn't have much, I kept records, not to hold it over anyone, just because tracking everything was the only way I could feel in control of my life. I started going through the papers, receipts, bank statements, transfer confirmations. The numbers started adding up in my head like a calculator I couldn't shut off. Jennifer's college, $38,000 in tuition, books, and living expenses. Her wedding, $8,000. The house down payment, $12,000. 5 years of watching Emma without pay. If I'd charged what babysitters charged back then, about $47,000. Emma's college tuition for the past 4 years, $45,600. Jennifer's car insurance for the past 10 years, $33,600. The credit card she uses for emergencies. I'd calculated it 6 months ago at around $31,000 accumulated over the years. Then all the small stuff. The $500 to fix their washing machine. The $1,000 to help with property taxes. The $300 for Emma's laptop. The $700 for that emergency dental work that Jennifer's insurance supposedly didn't cover. I added it all up, even though it made me feel sick. More than $215,000. $215,000 over 23 years. Me. The woman who'd worked 2 jobs just to survive. The woman who drove a car held together with duct tape and prayers. The woman who hadn't bought herself new clothes in 4 years. The woman who ate rice and beans half the week to make her grocery budget stretch. $215,000 I'd given them, thinking I was building bridges. I never knew I was digging my own grave. I closed the folder and put it back in the drawer. But something had shifted inside me during that sleepless night. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was something more powerful, more dangerous. Clarity. The brutal, honest clarity of someone who finally sees the truth without the blinders of guilt and maternal obligation. They didn't see me as a mother. They saw me as a resource, an ATM with feelings they could ignore whenever convenient. I got out of bed as the sky started turning gray with dawn. I showered, got dressed in a simple pair of jeans and a blouse, and pulled my hair back in a ponytail. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and saw a 69-year-old woman who'd grown old, making everyone else's life easier. But I also saw something else. I saw a woman who still had time to live for herself. I grabbed my purse, stuffed all my important documents inside, and walked out of my apartment with my shoulders back and my chin up. First stop, the bank. I walked through the doors at 9 a.m. sharp, right when they opened. The account manager, a young guy named David, who'd always been friendly, greeted me with his usual smile. "Good morning, Mrs. Wilson. What can I help you with today?" I sat down across from his desk and pulled out my debit card. "I need to cancel an authorized user on my credit card. My daughter, Jennifer Parker, and I need to cancel all my automatic transfers." David blinked, clearly surprised by the firmness in my voice. Okay. Is there a problem with the account?" "No problem," I said calmly. "I'm just making some necessary changes." It took about 35 minutes to process everything. David showed me each automatic transfer on his computer screen, and I nodded every time he asked if I was sure. $950 a month for Emma's college? Canceled? $280 for Jennifer's car insurance? Canceled. The credit card with a current balance of $1,862? Blocked and canceled. When we finished, David looked at me with this mixture of respect and curiosity. "Mrs. Wilson, are you absolutely sure about all this? These are pretty major changes." I looked him straight in the eye. I have never been more sure of anything in my entire life. I walked out of that bank feeling like I'd just taken off a 100-pound coat I'd been wearing for decades. The morning sun was bright on the street, and for the first time in forever, I could breathe deep without my chest hurting. I walked to a coffee shop 2 blocks away and sat by the window. I ordered a caramel latte and a blueberry muffin, things I normally wouldn't waste money on. But sitting there, I realized I deserved small pleasures too. While I sipped my coffee, I checked my phone. 3 messages from Jennifer Mom. Seriously? Are you giving me the silent treatment now? Rob says you're being ridiculous. It's just a party. It's not that serious. Are you really going to ignore me? I didn't respond. I put my phone back in my purse and kept enjoying my coffee because I discovered something powerful in the last 24 hours. My silence was worth more than 1,000 explanations. The next few days passed in this weird, quiet calm. I stuck to my normal routine: morning coffee, watering my plants, reading the newspaper on my fire escape. But something felt different, like the air before a thunderstorm. You know it's coming, but the sky's still clear. Jennifer didn't text again for 4 whole days. I guess she expected me to make the first move, to apologize for my tantrum, to go back to being the pushover mom I'd always been. I didn't. On the 5th day, Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Hello? Mom. Jennifer's voice was tight, controlled. We need to talk. I'm listening. I just got an email from Emma's college. They said this month's payment got declined. You forgot to make the transfer. I leaned back on my couch and looked out the window. A pigeon had landed on my fire escape railing. I didn't forget, Jennifer. I canceled the automatic transfer. Silence on the other end. Heavy, disbelieving silence. You did what? I canceled all the automatic transfers. And I blocked the credit card you were using. Mom, have you lost your mind? How could you do something like that without even talking to us? The word talking almost made me laugh. A bitter laugh I kept in my throat. Jennifer, did you talk to me before you canceled my birthday party? Did you talk to me before you called it a joke? Oh my God, Mom, one thing has nothing to do with the other. We're talking about Emma's education here. You're gonna punish your granddaughter because I hurt your feelings? I'm not punishing anyone. I'm reorganizing my finances. At 69 years old, I think I have the right to decide what I do with my own money. But you've always paid for Emma's college. You can't just leave us hanging like this. Actually, I can. It's my money, Jennifer, my Social Security check. Just because I decided to help you for years doesn't mean I'm obligated to do it for the rest of my life. I heard her breathing hard on the other end. I could picture her in her modern kitchen, the one with the granite countertops I'd helped pay for, gripping her phone tight. Rob was right, she said finally, her tone ice cold. He said you'd be dramatic and spiteful. This is all because we canceled your party, isn't it? You're throwing a childish tantrum. Something snapped inside me at those words. Not broke, snapped free. Think whatever you want, Jennifer, but things are changing from now on. Mom, listen to me. If you don't pay Emma's tuition this month, she's going to lose her whole semester. Is that what you want? To ruin your granddaughter's future because you're mad at me? Emma's future is her parents' responsibility. You both work. You both have good salaries. You can pay for her education yourselves. We can't afford it. We've got the mortgage, the bills, Rob's car payment. Then you'll have to make adjustments. Like I've done my entire life to help you. Mom, please, don't do this. You know we need you. There it was. The naked truth right out in the open. They needed me. Not loved me. Not valued me. Not respected me. Needed me. Like you need an ATM or a credit card. Goodbye. Jennifer. I hung up before she could respond. The phone started ringing again immediately, but I put it on silent and set it face down on the table. I sat there feeling my heart pound against my ribs. I'd been tough. I'd set boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. I couldn't eat dinner that night. I made chamomile tea and sat on my fire escape wrapped in an old blanket, watching the city lights blink on one by one. The cool evening air brushed my face, and I closed my eyes, trying to find peace in the middle of the chaos I'd just unleashed. I knew what was coming next. I knew this was just the beginning, and I was right. The next morning, Friday at 7:30, someone started pounding on my door. I was making scrambled eggs for breakfast. I turned off the stove and walked to the door. When I looked through the peephole, Rob was standing there in his work suit, hair slicked back with gel, wearing that expression he always used when he wanted to intimidate someone. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. I stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance with my body. Morning, Margaret. Rob, I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. Say what you came to say from there. He sighed like he was dealing with a stubborn child. Margaret, I know you're upset about the birthday thing. Jennifer told me. And look, maybe my wording was a little harsh, but you gotta understand, we're going through a tough time financially. Oh, really? I didn't know. I thought you guys were doing great with your design jobs. We do okay, but we've got a lot of expenses. The house needs work. Jennifer's car is old. We're gonna need to replace it soon. And Emma's at an expensive school because you wanted her to go to the best. I never said that. You chose that school, and I agreed to help, not to pay for everything forever. Rob took a step closer, getting right up in my personal space. His voice dropped lower, more threatening. Listen to me, Margaret. You can't just pull the rug out from under us like this. We built our whole life counting on your support. You can't just take it away overnight because your feelings got hurt. Yes, I can. It's my money. That money is for family, for your granddaughter. What kind of grandmother denies her own granddaughter an education? The anger started boiling in my stomach. Anger from years of manipulation. Years of being seen as an obligation instead of a person. The kind of grandmother who's tired of being used. The kind of grandmother who finally figured out she's only valuable to you when she's handing out cash. You're being selfish and ridiculous. Jennifer's been crying for 3 days because of you. How interesting. She cried because I stopped paying her bills, but she didn't cry when she canceled my birthday. She didn't cry when she called it a joke. Rob clenched his jaw. I could see him trying to control his temper. You know what, Margaret? Do whatever you want, but don't come crying to us later when you're all alone in this dump with nobody to visit you. Because that's where you'll end up if you keep this up, alone and forgotten. His words tried to stab into me, to find that vulnerable part that had always been terrified of loneliness. Of abandonment. Of not being loved, but something had changed. I had changed. I'd rather be alone than be with people who only want me when they need something. Now get away from my door, Rob, and don't come back unless you're invited. I closed the door in his face before he could answer. My hands were shaking as I locked the deadbolt. I heard his footsteps stomping away down the hall, heavy and angry. I leaned against the closed door and took a deep breath. My heart was racing like crazy, but I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel scared. I felt powerful, because I'd just learned something fundamental. The respect they'd never given me, I could give to myself. I went back to my kitchen. My scrambled eggs were cold, but I didn't care. I ate them anyway, sitting by the window, watching life continue as normal on the street below. And as I ate, I thought about all the times I'd given in. All the times I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. All the times I'd put everyone else's needs before my own survival. Those days were over. The joke was canceled. And I was done being the punchline. The next week was strange, a mix of peace and tension. On one hand, I felt freer than I had in decades. On the other, I knew the storm wasn't finished yet. For 6 full days, I heard nothing from Jennifer or Rob. The silence was loud, but also revealing. It confirmed what I already suspected. When there was no money involved, I simply didn't exist to them. I used that silence to do something I'd been putting off for years. Live for myself. On Monday, I went to the salon and got my hair cut and colored. Nothing dramatic, just a trim and some highlights to cover the gray. The stylist, a cheerful woman named Rosa, told me I looked 10 years younger. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman I was starting to recognize again. On Wednesday, I went to the farmer's market I'd always wanted to visit but never had time for. I walked through the stalls, touching fresh flowers, smelling homemade bread, tasting sample cheeses. I bought a small succulent plant in a hand-painted pot. It cost $18, and normally I'd have thought that was wasteful, but that day I bought it without guilt. On Thursday, I called my old friend Patricia. We'd lost touch over the past few years because I was always too busy helping Jennifer with something, or watching Emma, or dealing with some family emergency. Patricia was 67. A widow like me, and lived alone in a little apartment across town. Margaret? Oh my God, I thought you'd forgotten I existed, she said in that warm, familiar voice. I'm sorry, Patricia. I've been lost for a while. Can we meet for coffee? How about tomorrow? There's a new cafe on Maple Street. The next day, Friday afternoon, I met Patricia at the cafe. It was bright and cozy, with big windows and mismatched furniture that somehow worked perfectly together. We ordered lattes, and then, without planning to, I told her everything. The canceled party, the hurtful messages, the years of financial help, my decision to turn off the money tap, it poured out of me like a dam breaking. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Oh, honey, you should have done this years ago. Remember 5 years back when you told me you'd given them the down payment for their house? I told you then, you gotta set boundaries. I know. You were right, but I was scared. Scared of what? Losing them? Being alone? She leaned forward, her eyes intense. But Margaret, did you really have them? Because from what you're telling me, they were never there for you. Only your money was. Her words hit like a punch to the gut, painful but necessary. Come have dinner at my place next week, Patricia said before we left. I want you to meet some of my friends. We've got a whole group. We go to plays, take day trips, try new restaurants. Life doesn't end at 70, Margaret. For some of us, it's just getting started. I hugged her tight in the parking lot, feeling lighter than I had in years. Having an ally, someone who understood without judgment, was something I didn't know I needed so desperately until that moment. On Saturday afternoon, as I was reading on my couch, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Hi, is this Margaret Wilson? A young woman's voice I didn't recognize. Yes, who's this? My name's Emma. My heart stopped. My granddaughter, calling from a number I didn't know. Emma? Honey, are you okay? Yeah, Grandma. I'm fine. I'm calling from my friend's phone because I wanted to talk to you without Mom and Dad knowing. Okay, I'm listening. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing, working up courage. Grandma, I need to tell you something. Mom and Dad sent me to talk to you. They want me to convince you to start paying for my college again. Jennifer's face went red. That's not fair. You've what? Visited me on holidays? Called me once a month? Let me see my granddaughter when it was convenient for you. I felt 23 years of frustration pouring out. I gave you everything, Jennifer. Everything. And the one time I asked for something, just one dinner to celebrate my birthday, you called it a joke. It was a figure of speech. No, it wasn't. It's how you really see me. As a joke, as an obligation, as someone who exists to make your life easier. Emma suddenly spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. She's right, Mom, Jennifer whipped around. Excuse me? Grandma's right. We've been using her. Emma's eyes were shiny with tears. I didn't see it before, but I see it now. We only call her when we need something. When's the last time we took her out to dinner? When's the last time we asked how she was doing? Emma, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. And I'm done being part of it. Emma turned to me. Grandma, I meant what I said. I'm getting loans. I'm working 2 jobs. You don't have to pay for anything. Emma, don't be ridiculous, Rob said. You'll be buried in debt, then I'll be buried in debt. Like every other college student in America. Emma's voice was strong now. At least it'll be my debt, my responsibility. Not something I'm stealing from my grandmother's Social Security check. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You're being dramatic. No, Mom, you're being selfish. The room went completely silent. Jennifer looked like she'd been slapped. Rob looked furious. Emma looked terrified but determined. And I felt proud. Proud of my granddaughter for finding her backbone. Proud of myself for finally standing up. Proud that I'd taught her, even accidentally, that self-respect mattered. I think you should leave, I said quietly. All of you. We're done here. Fine. Jennifer's voice was cold. But don't expect us to come crawling back when you change your mind. I won't. Jennifer and Rob stormed toward the door. But Emma stayed where she was. Emma, let's go, Rob barked. No. Jennifer turned around slowly. What did you say? I said no. I'm staying with Grandma tonight. Like hell you are. I'm 21 years old. Emma's voice cracked. You can't tell me what to do anymore. And I'm not leaving her alone after you came in here and attacked her. Jennifer's face went through about 5 different emotions. Finally, she just shook her head. Fine. Stay. See if I care. She and Rob left, slamming the door behind them. The apartment went quiet. Emma and I stood there looking at each other. Then she burst into tears, and I pulled her into my arms. "I'm sorry, Grandma," she sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry for everything." "Shh, baby. It's okay. You're okay. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know how bad they were treating you." "I know, sweetheart. I know." We stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in my tiny living room while the evening light faded outside. Emma ended up staying the whole week. We talked about everything: her classes, her dreams of working at an animal shelter someday, her worries about money. I helped her apply for 3 different scholarships and fill out loan applications. We made dinners together, watched old movies, and laughed more than I'd laughed in years. On Friday night, as we were eating spaghetti at my little kitchen table, Emma said, "Grandma, can I ask you something?" "Anything. What are you going to do for your birthday?" I shrugged. "I don't know. Probably nothing. It's only 2 weeks away." "That's not acceptable." Emma set down her fork with a determined look. "You're going to have a party, a real one." "Emma, you don't have to." "I want to. Please let me do this." I looked at my granddaughter's eager face and felt my heart swell. "Okay, but nothing expensive. Just something small." "Something small and perfect," Emma agreed with a grin. 2 weeks later, on my actual 70th birthday, Emma picked me up at noon. "Where are we going?" I asked as we got in her beat-up Honda. "You'll see." She drove us to Patricia's apartment complex. When we got to Patricia's door, Emma knocked 3 times. Patricia opened it with a huge smile. "Happy birthday, Margaret." I walked inside and stopped dead. Patricia's living room was decorated with streamers and balloons. A homemade banner reading, "Happy 70th, Margaret," hung on the wall, and standing around the room were 7 people, Patricia's friends from her group, all smiling at me. Surprise! They all yelled. I started crying immediately. "Oh no, these are supposed to be happy tears." Patricia laughed, hugging me. "They are," I managed. "They are happy tears." There was a chocolate cake with strawberries on top, my favorite. There were sandwiches and fruit and little appetizers. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, but it was perfect. We spent the afternoon eating, laughing, and sharing stories. Patricia's friends were hilarious, telling jokes, arguing about politics, sharing wild stories from their younger days. They welcomed me into their circle like I'd always belonged there. Emma stayed by my side the whole time, beaming like she'd won the lottery. Around 4 p.m., the doorbell rang. Patricia went to answer it. When she came back, she had a strange look on her face. "Margaret, there's someone here to see you." My stomach clenched. "Who?" "Me." Jennifer stepped into the living room. The whole party went quiet. My daughter looked different. Smaller somehow. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. She was holding a wrapped box in her hands. "Mom, Can we talk, please?" I glanced at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. Then I looked at Patricia, who squeezed my shoulder. "Okay." Jennifer and I stepped out into the hallway. The door closed behind us, leaving us alone. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Jennifer said, "I'm sorry." I waited. "I'm sorry for everything. For the way I treated you, for taking you for granted, for calling your birthday a joke." Her voice cracked. "For being a terrible daughter." "Jennifer, no, let me finish, please." She took a shaky breath. "These past 2 weeks have been hell. Emma moved out. She's living with her friend Kayla now. She barely talks to me, and I kept thinking, how did I become this person? How did I turn into someone my own daughter doesn't want to be around?" Tears were streaming down her face now. And then I remembered something. "When I was 8 years old, you worked 3 jobs so I could take piano lessons. I'd forgotten that. I forgot that you wore the same winter coat for 6 years so I could have a new one every year. I forgot that you gave up everything for me. I did it because I loved you," I said softly. "I know. And somewhere along the way, I stopped loving you back. I started seeing you as a resource, as someone who existed to make my life easier." She wiped her eyes. "And I hate myself for it. I didn't know what to say. I'm not here to ask for money," Jennifer continued. I'm not here to beg you to pay for Emma's school. I'm just here to say I'm sorry, and to give you this." She held out the wrapped box. I took it slowly and unwrapped it. Inside was a framed photograph, the one from Jennifer's 7th birthday, where she's wearing the purple dress I made, grinning with that gap-toothed smile. But that wasn't all. Behind the photo was an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a check for $12,000. "It's the down payment," Jennifer whispered. "The one you gave us for the house. I took out a personal loan to pay you back. It's going to take me 3 years to pay off, but I don't care. You deserve to have that money back 20 years ago." I stared at the check, speechless. "I know it doesn't make up for everything," Jennifer said. "I know I can't undo 23 years of being selfish. But I want to try, if you'll let me." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw genuine remorse, genuine pain, genuine desire to change. "It's gonna take time," I said finally. "I can't just forget everything that happened." "I know. And things can't go back to how they were. I'm not gonna be your safety net anymore. I understand. But," I took a deep breath, "you're still my daughter, and I still love you." Jennifer broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. I stepped forward and hugged her, and she clung to me like a little girl. "I love you too, Mom," she choked out. "I'm gonna do better. I swear I'm gonna do better." We stood there in that hallway, holding each other, both of us crying. When we finally pulled apart, I said, "Do you want to come to my party?" "There's still cake left." Jennifer's face lit up. "Really?" "Really." We went back inside together. Emma saw us and started crying happy tears. Patricia gave Jennifer a stern look, but then softened and handed her a plate of cake. The party continued, lighter and warmer now. Jennifer stayed quiet mostly, just watching and listening, but I could see her really looking at me, seeing me maybe for the first time in years. Around sunset, after everyone else had left, it was just me, Emma, Jennifer, and Patricia sitting around the living room, stuffed with cake and laughing about silly things. "Grandma," Emma said suddenly, "tell Mom about your Grand Canyon trip." "Grand Canyon?" Jennifer looked surprised. "Yeah." I felt a little self-conscious. "I'm going with Patricia and her friends next month. 5 days. Mom, that's amazing. You've always wanted to see the Grand Canyon." "I know." Jennifer smiled, a real, genuine smile. "I'm glad you're doing things for yourself. Finally." 3 months later, I was sitting on my fire escape on a beautiful September morning, drinking coffee and watching the neighborhood wake up. My life had changed completely. Emma had gotten 2 of the scholarships she applied for and was managing the rest with loans and her 2 part-time jobs. She came to visit me every Sunday, and we'd cook dinner together and watch old game shows. Not because she needed anything, just because she wanted to. Jennifer and I were rebuilding our relationship slowly. She'd started paying her own car insurance. She'd cut up the credit card I used to pay off every month. And she called me once a week, not to ask for money, but just to talk. To ask how I was doing, to tell me about her day. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, still old wounds that stung. But it was honest. It was real. And that was worth more than all the fake closeness we'd had before. Rob had actually apologized too, about a month after Jennifer did. It was stiff and uncomfortable, but he did it. And he'd been making an effort, small things, like helping me carry groceries or fixing a leaky faucet in my apartment. The Grand Canyon trip had been magical. Standing on the edge of that massive canyon, watching the sunset paint the rocks in shades of orange and red and purple, I'd felt something shift inside me. I'd felt alive, free, full of possibility, and Patricia's group had basically adopted me. We went out to dinner twice a month, took day trips to museums and festivals, saw plays at the community theater. I had friends now, real friends who liked me for me, not for what I could give them. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Grandma, I got an A on my biology exam. The one I was stressing about." I smiled and texted back, "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." "That's amazing. Couldn't have done it without your pep talk. Love you, see you Sunday." "Love you too, baby." I set my phone down and looked out at my little neighborhood. The same buildings, the same streets, but somehow everything looked different now, brighter, full of color and life. I thought about 70-year-old Margaret Wilson, the woman I'd become. I wasn't rich. I wasn't living some glamorous life. I was still in my tiny apartment with the water-stained ceiling and the second-hand furniture, but I had something more valuable than any of that. I had my dignity. I had my self-respect. I had people in my life who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. And most importantly, I had learned the hardest lesson of my life. You can't love others if you don't love yourself first. You can't give from an empty place, and you don't have to pay people to care about you. Real love, the kind worth having, is freely given. My 70th birthday had turned out to be the best gift I could have given myself. Not the party itself, but the stand I took, the boundary I set. The moment I finally said, "I matter too," the joke was over. The circus had closed, and Margaret Wilson,